public hearing is
Yeah.
posted.
Oh, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We have a meeting posted tomorrow.
All right, good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Lunenburg Select Board. Today is Tuesday, November 19th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. We're going to begin with public comment. Are there any public comments from the board?
No. Nope.
Are there any public comments from the public? Just check on. All right.
Recording in progress.
Seeing none, we're going to move to announcements. I don't have any tonight. Does anyone have any announcements?
No.
Communications from other boards.
Hi, I'm Jen Duffy, at 684 Flathead Road. I'm the chair for AgCom. We just had a couple of things to share today. So first is that we would like to encourage members of the ag community in Lunenburg, if they're farmers or whatever association they may have, to join us at our meetings, just even if it's just for one time or just as they're available. We'd love to get ideas and input from the community. Second thing I wanted to share is that we're looking to plan like an open farm day type of thing. So we'll be reaching out to the ag community to kind of see what the interest would be for that, maybe around the end of April, the beginning of May, to kind of like see what different people are working on their farms and what they're producing and what we're making here in Lunenburg in town. And the last thing I wanted to share was that we're planning on a monthly farmers market for next year, for 2025, on Friday evenings, and looking to make that kind of be a little bit more of an event too, with maybe some food and some music, because it seems like a nice gathering from the town at the Ag Fair at the end of last year. So, and looking to have that at the same place as the Ag Fair, so on the green next to TC Passios. So that's all my updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 2 more minutes before we can do the public hearing. So why don't we just do the ratification of the town manager's appointment for the DPW laborer driver, Autumn Buck.
Autumn has been a seasonal laborer with us. Reports on her have been very good. She has indicated an interest in progressing through the ranks by the earning of her CDL and perhaps hydraulic licenses. And the DPW director and I recommend her heartily to you for permanent, subject to probation, of course, permanent appointment.
Any questions for Carter? All right, is there a motion?
I move to appoint Autumn Buck as DPW laborer and driver.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
I think it's for the ratification, just again, to be clear, we are not appointing, we're just ratifying the appointment.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll reword that.
It's okay, I'm just wanted, you don't have to reword it.
We have a minute, so why not?
Yeah, no, I'll make that correctly. I move to ratify the appointment of Autumn Buck as DPW laborer and driver.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, so it's still 7:04, but Linda, if you want, I'll invite you up and you can get set up. I'll get the presentation going. And it is a public hearing, so I do have to ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice, which is in the drive. And to the booth, we're getting a lot of feedback in the room, not sure what's causing it.
Do we need to wait till 7:05 to read it, or?
You can read it now.
Okay. Notice of FY25 tax classification hearing. Pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 56, Mass General Law, the Lunenburg Select Board will be holding a public hearing on Tuesday evening, November 19th, 2024, at 7:05 in the Bellata Hearing Room at Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Massachusetts. The purpose of the hearing is to determine the percentage of the local tax levy to be borne by each class of real property. The hearing will include a presentation by the Board of Assessors outlining the options available under Chapter 40, Section 56 of Massachusetts General Law. The public is welcome to attend, and it's posted to the town website as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Linda McQuaid. I'm the principal assessor, and I'm going to present the FY 2025 tax classification hearing this evening. I did get some of this data this afternoon, so I do apologize. It is going to be estimated on some of the data. We do feel pretty confident with that, but I did want to note that. And I guess when I had sent the email, some of the text had actually wrapped. It's not wrapped on my copy, but on a couple of pages it did, so I apologize for that if it did wrap on your copy. Our first slide, the role of the assessors and who determines the tax rate. The Board of Assessors does not set the tax rate, and residents who attend the annual town meeting decide what services the town of Lunenburg provides. This determines how much the town will spend. These decisions impact the tax rate. And the tax rate is determined each year by the levy and the real and personal property total values. The role of the Board of Assessors is to value property for the purpose of equitable taxation, based on fair market value by what sales have taken place for the prior calendar year. And FY 2025 valuations were based on calendar year 2023 sales, and 2022 sales were utilized when classes of properties had limited sales. This was done in accordance with the state guidelines and reviewed by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. The next slide is the fiscal year 2025 tax classification hearing, and the purpose of this hearing this evening is to adopt a residential factor and decide on whether or not to adopt on three exemptions. The first one being a residential exemption, an open space discount, and a small commercial exemption. There are 5 classes of property within the Department of Revenue. Those are residential, open space, commercial, industrial, and personal property. And there is no open space classification of property in Lunenburg that is designated by the Department of Revenue. The next slide is some commonly used terms that I provided just for reference that will be mentioned throughout the presentation. And the next slide is page 5. It's a pie chart of our real and personal property values. And as you can see from the chart, 92% of the valuation is residential. We have 4% commercial, 1% industrial, and 3% personal property. On slide number 6, there's 6 years of valuation percentages, and the blue line is residential, the maroon is commercial, industrial, and personal property. And as you can see, the valuation has kind of been consistent with residential. There was a little bit of a dip in 2023 in commercial, industrial, personal property, but it has been pretty consistent at 92% roughly and 8% CIP, residential being most of the value. FY 2025 valuation summaries on page 7, and it is a breakdown of the valuation and the percentages. The total valuation was $2,360,706,780 from last year's total value of $2,242,686,580. It's been a 5% increase. And our average single-family value for FY 2025 is $504,937. In FY 2024, it was $481,417, which was a 5% increase. And our average commercial and industrial property value for FY 2025 was $435,910, and last year was $404,408, and that was a 7.7% increase. The next slide might have been the slide where the valuation for residential had wrapped. I don't know if it's on your copy, but I just wanted to mention that. But the residential value last year was $2,057,467,522, 92% of the valuation. Last year, we had a single tax rate of $14.10 per thousand. There was no shift to commercial, industrial, and personal property, and this was voted on March 12th of this year by the Select Board. Slide number 9 is our FY 2025 tax levy summary, and I have it estimated here. The levy limit for FY 2024 is $29,375,036. We have our 2.5% increase. And then FY 2025 growth was $527,289. We did have $16,850 of amended growth. Our debt exclusions are $2,313,898, and our override was $948,136. So our total levy for FY 2025 is $33,916,006. In comparison to last year's levy, there's been an increase of $4,540,970, 15.4% increase. And on page number 10, our estimated FY 2025 single tax rate. If we do not shift the tax rate, what we do is we take the total levy and we divide that by the total valuation for FY 2025. We multiply that by 1,000, and that comes out to $14.37 per thousand. Last year's tax rate was $14.10, and it's a 1.9% increase in the tax rate. This tax rate, based on the average single-family tax bill of $504,937, would be $7,255.18, and that was just for reference. Slide number 11 is a chart with the FY 2025 estimated tax rates and how this split tax rate would impact Lunenburg if it was voted upon. I have in the chart the CIP shift and the residential factor, and the residential factor is what the Select Board will vote on tonight. And it has the tax rate. The CIP shift of 1 would be no shift, and if you look across, you can see it's consistent for 3 residential properties that are valued at $325,000, $600,000, and $1,250,000. The same 3 valuations for commercial properties are essentially the same tax bill based on the valuation of each one. If we shift that down to a 1.15 or 15%, as you can see, the tax rate drops to $14.17 for residential. It increases to $16.52 for commercial. And we can actually go to our max of 1.50, which is the max that we can increase the shift in Lunenburg. And the residential tax rate would decline to $13.70 per thousand. But on the commercial end, it would increase to $20.83. So there are 112 communities out of 352 in Massachusetts that do have split tax rates. And of these 112, only 7 communities, which represents 6.25%, have split tax rates with a CIP of 10% or less. And they're mostly wealthy communities, such as Lincoln, Milton, Sudbury, Reading, Gloucester, Melrose, and Stockbridge. It just really wouldn't benefit Lunenburg, in my opinion. And at a 1.5 max shift, a home valued at $325,000 would only save $195 per year, but the same valued commercial property would actually pay $2,000.99 higher. So it's actually penalizing the commercial business. And then the same scenario at a 1.15 shift, or an increase, we shifted 15%. The home valued at $600,000 would save $120 per year in their tax bill, but the same commercial property would pay an additional $1,290. So I just want to exhibit that.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Linda, before you go on, leave
Yeah.
that slide.
Oh,
I don't know who's driving. I just wanted to clarify one thing, because we talked about this a lot. Brian, you and Brian presented at the Budget Task Force, split tax rate and single rate. And so you say 7 communities have split tax rates that have a CIP of 10% or less. And then you list 7 that are on the, wealthy communities. The one we talked about isn't here.
Maynard.
They weren't they also under 10%?
I got this from the Department of Revenue today, and they did not have that on the list, so I can
That's
check on
weird.
that. Yeah,
Because we spend a lot of time.
on
looking-
Maynard, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I did note that.
I thought
So-
they were under 10.
I can,
I could,
yeah.
anyway.
This is what Becky Boucher, our rep, had given me this afternoon.
Yeah, okay.
So,
They might be now with the new development on
yeah,
Route 27 there, but anyway,
yeah.
it was a curiosity on my part.
And they also have, I think as we mentioned, the digital equipment was there.
Years
and years ago.
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't matter, their buildings are still used by businesses.
other businesses.
Yeah,
So-
it's not fully
yeah.
occupied, but anyway.
Okay. The next slide, number 12, is just a 5-year summary of what the tax rates have been, and I have a star by 2025 for 1437 as being estimated. So kind of see what has happened over the past 5 years. The next slide is number 12. I'm going to go through the 3 exemptions and the discount that can be also voted on tonight by the Select Board. The first one being the residential exemption. And there's been actually some discussion about this as well that was in the budget meeting. But the residential exemption, it actually shifts the tax burden within the residential class from owners of moderately valued residential homes to homes of higher residential values and non-owner occupied residences, including apartments and vacant lands. The Select Board may adopt up to a 35% discount of the average residential valuation, and adopting a residential exemption increases the residential tax rate. This higher rate creates a shift that reduces the taxes paid by the homeowners with moderately valued properties, and it shifts the taxes that would then be paid by owners of rental properties, vacation homes, and higher valued homes. It's actually utilized right now and adopted in areas that larger cities and towns where there are many non-owner occupied properties that have apartment buildings, such as Boston, Cambridge, Brookline, and Somerville. It's also adopted in other communities that have seasonal homes, such as Barnstable, Nantucket, Provincetown, and Wellfleet, just to name a few. Lunenburg has not adopted this residential exemption in the past. I'm afraid that if it was adopted, it would cause a split in the higher value properties, and I just don't think it would make sense for this town. It's really not ideal. We don't really have a lot of seasonal and apartment buildings. We don't have a large number of apartment buildings. The next one is the open space discount, and the Select Board may discount up to 25% of the open space percentage share of the tax levy. This really doesn't qualify for Lunenburg because there's currently no designated open space. So And on to the next exemption, the small commercial exemption. The Select Board may adopt an exemption of up to 10% of the value of eligible parcels. This is actually designed to provide tax relief for small businesses that own real estate only. Leased businesses do not receive this tax benefit, and every small business that does not qualify would actually pay a higher tax. The tax burden is shifted within the C&I class, commercial and industrial. And as far as the qualifying criteria, eligible properties must be included on a list that is provided annually to the assessors by the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. Qualifying properties must also have a valuation of less than $1 million and average annual employment of 10 or fewer employees. And Lunenburg has not adopted this small commercial exemption to date. So that, next slide is our recommendation by the Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors recommends a single tax rate and not a split tax rate, and does not recommend adopting a residential exemption, an open space discount, and a small commercial exemption. And this is the end of my presentation. I'd like to welcome any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, so the tax rate you presented is an estimate.
Yeah.
When will we have the actual?
The intent is to print out and review the recap sheet tomorrow with the finance team, then hit send at the end of the day. We're still fortunately towards the front end of the DOR review process. I would expect us to have their approval shortly after Thanksgiving, and the tax bills would then be printed and sent out. I really think these numbers are spot on. There might be a penny shift or something.
But, I mean, the fact is, we still need them to go to DOR, get, their approval before we can print bills and mail bills.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know where I'm going with the print bills and mail bills by December 31st. I don't want to go there again.
Well, I can tell you, today, I actually got our files ready from Vision Appraisal and RRC, which is personal property, and they're ready to go. We have a consultant lined up to do a test and send those over into Munis, and hopefully
Yeah.
everything will work out.
So I guess,
fine.
because I think the expectation was, I think yours was too, that you would have the final numbers by now and maybe even submitted to DOR? Is that-
She can't until the board votes.
Yeah.
We cannot
Okay,
submit.
we'll have the final number. I mean, what's the obstacle? Is there something that needs to be,
Well, you vote
Is-
tonight on, whether what the residential factor is, if there's going to be a split tax rate.
right, but then the actual
And-
rate, if we say tonight, single tax rate, that rate is
Yep.
still an estimate. Okay, maybe it is, what's stopping it from being an actual rate at this time? That's what I'm trying to understand.
It's always estimated when we go to the tax classification hearing, because numbers can change. The accountant is still working, and, it is always an estimate. It doesn't really fluctuate that much, but,
It all comes down to DOR. So let's say last year you had an estimate of $500,000 on a line item, and this year it's 250. That's a drop of 50,000. They tend to question any change that's up or down by 10%.
I want to make sure, we're not going to run into any software glitches
Well-
or any, stuff like,
Let me just say that I did get a call from Linda yesterday. She was a little nervous. I think I told her, hell no, we were going forward tonight, we'd have it done. And I do want to say that she and Izzy worked hard. I also want to say I hired Linda 3 years ago in another community and saw her first tax classification hearing, and I'm really
My
pleased
fifth.
with the progress that's been made. We're keenly aware of the concern that you have.
no, I don't know what we could do about it, but, I
well, I got to tell you, I'm nervous myself about it, so today, I got the files ready, we have the consultant lined up, and hopefully, it'll go into Munis, and he's supposed to assist us with it, so I know Munis has
anytime you
been a
say
nightmare,
Munis,
but
the
cringe.
hairs on the back of my neck stand up,
Yeah. they do. But we're doing our best. We've been working really hard. I've been,
Oh, I don't doubt,
Yeah.
oh, no,
and believe me,
it shouldn't take a heroic effort, things should,
I agree. But we're hoping that it goes well. We at least have
Yeah, this will
some.
go into DOR tomorrow, and I reviewed the tax recap, reviewed the estimates. I don't see any substantive issue. I expect to have a rate within a week.
thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Oh, but
Yeah,
I don't think you're done.
And you actually have to make your
So-
vote. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, I have questions,
Oh, you
yes.
do, okay.
So, the tax levy change was 15%, and then there's a calculation of how you got the rate, and then we have the history of the rate, and of course, I'd be the first to say that the history of the rate is hugely irrelevant, and people just care about what their tax bill is, but there's no slide in here that shows what the average tax bill is. Do you know what the average tax bill is as far as increase?
Yeah.
I did,
You mentioned what the bill is for this year, but not the increase.
I can actually, well,
I want to know what the increase
increase?
is from last year on the average tax bill.
okay. I can calculate that because I can take, if you want, the average value last year and multiply it by the 1410, or do you want
Oh,
the
no,
same
I
value?
know how to get to it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying it's not in there. I'm just asking you what it is.
Yeah, well,
There, you can come up if you want to speak.
yeah. So,
Well, I don't have it calculated myself, but she mentioned that the glasses, the fiscal year, this was the average rate of the house, right?
yep,
Last year, the average house was 481,417. This year, it's 504,937. And she said the average tax bill for fiscal year '25's housing value would be $7,255.18. I don't know exactly what it was the previous year, but it was 481,417. So if we multiply that by the 1410, that was the amount last year.
$6,787.97.
And 97 cents.
So if we
So 7,255 would be this year's. Last year's was 6,787 and some change. So the difference is about
467.
$467, a $467 increase. So the
Can you just
percent
say the
is-
number again from last year?
Yeah, last year, the average house in Lunenburg would have paid $6,787.97. This year, they will pay $7,255.18,
You said $467 increase?
an increase of $467.
See what percent that is.
6.5.
It's like
6.5,
7%.
7%?
Yep.
And our values
Yeah, it's
went up
actually-
5% on values, residential.
Yeah, it's about
Yep.
6.8%.
Well, there was an override, right?
Actually, the debt exclusion, the override is what drives it up also, so.
Well, there was no new debt exclusion.
No, but,
It's carried over, so there's nothing
right,
new there.
yeah.
So I'll ask my standard question. Is there any category of home that saw a larger increase than others in town?
That would be something I'd have to get back to you on, but I do have,
Do you have the recap? You went through this at the last meeting.
yeah, let's see. Yeah,
I want to say that the great majority was up 5%.
yeah.
Embarrassingly, I cannot remember that exact number right now.
Yeah. We have had quite a few homes, though, that are over $1 million.
I'm
I do,
checking to see if you have the recap.
I don't
here.
have the, I
You
don't have that
it.
sheet.
I didn't mean by individual homes, I meant by class.
By
Is there any, is there any
neighborhoods, or-
class or neighborhood?
No, it was
No.
pretty consistent. I
Yeah.
remember going, wow, that's mostly the same. I don't remember anything going up over 10%. I remember most things being around 5%. I think commercial was up 7%.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't see like a huge difference between between single families. I didn't see a huge difference between blanking.
Commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah.
I didn't see a huge difference when we're looking at condos compared to residences. It was just, it seemed very consistent across the board.
Our industrial, we did have 9 new industrial condos, so that was really our only increase for industrial.
Gotcha.
Well, the commercial just isn't increasing, industrial is increasing this.
Well, it's only 1%, so.
Yeah, it's just very small
Raging out of
percentage.
control, yes.
So that's the thing. But I can get back to you on that if you'd like.
We've calculated it.
Okay,
It's fine. Thank you.
all right. Any other questions?
I'm all set. I don't have any additional
I
questions.
do. It's kind of a follow-up to Mr. Alonso's question. So with, as I've learned, that, the goal is to get every property within the 90th to 110th percentile, and most of the time you land about 94, 95%. What was the starting, and I think you're going to have to get back to us on this, but I'd like to know what the starting point was for the 5 different indexes as well as the variances within Index 1. So in other words, a couple years ago, we were at a position where, when the calculations were done, Index 1 was roughly, 0.5 of assessment to sales ratio. And so I'm wondering what the lowest one was, because, that's obviously what triggered a huge correction and recognition that, a lot of data was missing there, whereas all the other indices, is that the right word, during that time were all in like the 80th, 85th percentile, so their move up wasn't as much. So that's, I think, kind of going to Mr. Alonso's question, where was the largest shift by index or home type, and what was that, what was the lowest ASR?
Okay.
I understand that part of this is that, you got how you guys come to the valuations is completely removed from the impact on the homeowners. And I do recognize that, and that a lot of this is learned after the bills are printed. But if you can get back to us on that, that'd be helpful.
Sure, I can. I know that we are at 95% from assessment to sales ratio. So that's exactly what we started at 95. And our sales were analyzed by vision appraisal. But I can get back to you on that, and you want it within the 5.
Well, I'm just, with across the 5, I know Index 1 really is like 3 parts. It's A, B, and C essentially. But yeah, that's what I'm curious, if there was anything that was an outlier, something that
Yep.
was like, 0.6. That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Yeah, and that's when we look at the sales, we do look at the outliers, and sometimes those sales might be disqualified.
Yeah.
And then if there's a second sale, so those are analyzed.
Yeah, of your qualified sales.
Of the qualified sales.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll look into that, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have one for information. So we have 2 estimated bills already. We got our FY25 Q1, Q2 bill. The assessed value on that bill that's the current assessed value, right? That won't change with the Q3 and Q4 bills.
Those bills that already went out are estimated, those are prelim bills?
The tax rate itself, but the assessed value on that, there's, the assessed value is on that bill. No, I'm not saying the bill itself, but like on our GIS card, our current card, vision card, whatever.
Vision card, yep.
The assessed value that's on there now, that's not going to change, correct?
No, our values have already been approved, so if I was to give you a property record card right now from our database, that would be the current assessed value that would be applied to the tax rate.
So I'm saying people can go now and check their assessed value,
Yep,
and
they can.
Well, hold on, I want to clarify, because now, so what Renee asked is that the Q1 and Q2 estimated bills we got had valuations for properties that were not the updated ones that they are now, because that was part of the process that your board went through, correct?
Exactly,
So
yeah.
they are updated, and that, now that we have that and the levy, now you can have a final Q3 and Q4 actual rate.
That's correct.
if you go into, and look at your card, what's it called?
If you go into
Vision
your,
card,
if you go
the
into your
property-
Vision property record card.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that they call our office to make sure, because GIS or CAI only updates so often. I just want to make sure that our values have been certified, so if they call the office, we will print out our property record card, or we can give them their assessed value over the phone. And that is the value that will be
Be the
on the
basis.
basis for the bill going out on whatever the tax rate is.
So the ones online may not be up to date?
I've been checking on that, and CAI is supposed to be updating them weekly, but I tell people just to call, and we're more than happy to
getting
give them a
antsy.
copy. Yeah, it should be.
There are 2 cards online.
Yes.
There's the CII, and they take a while to update. Vision should be updated.
So we should look at the vision, that's, okay.
Definitely the vision
I think
card.
I think that's good information for
Yeah.
people to.
But anybody
Just to
that,
have another check in the system.
yeah, but anybody that wants a property record card, we can email them. We'd be glad to review that with them, so,
Great, thank you.
yep.
All right, since this is a public hearing, I'm going to open it up to the public. If they have any questions for you, but I'll start with, exactly, I knew you wanted to speak. I was going to start with any members of the Board of Assessors, if Sarah or Jack, if you want to come up.
First of all, I want to be clear that...
Hold on, you got to get to the microphone.
John Rabbit, 314 Townsend Harbor Road. I am on the Board of Assessors, but I am not speaking for the Board of Assessors. We have not met to come to any kind of final... Speaking of the mic, right. Speaking of the mic, we haven't had a chance to really look at those numbers because Linda just got them. And so I'm going to speak to you as a quality guy. I have a little background in that. And when you look at risk, you look at 3 different things. You look at the probability of the occurrence, the impact of the occurrence, and the ability to detect a problem, right? With whether it's in-process inspection, final inspection, or whatever. A probability of occurrence, well, we've had one a few years. It's not the same level, but there is a distinct possibility. We have had, you got to look at not just the assessors organization, but the whole flow. And we know we've had some little fluctuations. We know that they've been stressed to get these numbers together, so we've sped them up. Will their processes handle the speeding up? I don't know. The impact, well, we know what the impact could be. I suspect it's significantly less. The numbers that Linda presented to us last week in terms of the dispersion looked pretty darn good, but just because they looked pretty good and the DOR approved them, we can point to a couple years ago when the DOR did approve the numbers that we ran with. The last thing, and probably the most thing, is our ability to detect. I'm interested in seeing what kind of scrub went on throughout the entire process to make sure those numbers are correct. What you do is you usually do a final inspection or you'll do an in-process inspection. If you have escapes or occurrences, you try to understand what happened and what were the corrective actions, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you're going to have some sort of a hiccup in fluctuation. I, as a quality person, would say, okay, marketing, hold your horses for a week, give us a chance to take a look at seeing what we can find and dig out in that particular period of time. I do understand that we do have to get those tax bills, but I don't want a recurrence of that. And in fact, I was elected on the promise that we would do everything we could to make sure it wouldn't happen. So here we go. In terms of probability of occurrence, the impact, the ability to detect, I haven't seen anything yet. And I haven't had a chance to, I absolutely believe Linda's numbers are really good. As Carter, as you would know. But I have questions, and I think that our board has not had a chance to review this, and that we need to have that opportunity. So as a quality guy, I would
Sounds like
say,
you're trying to make a recommendation for us.
my recommendation is that put it on hold for a week. There you go. Thank you.
All right, Sarah.
I just want to state to our select board and people who are listening that our property values and our assessment values were reviewed by Vision. Vision went forward and recommended the adjustments that we needed to make to put all of our properties in the appropriate range based on sales, as Linda reported. The only thing that is new today that has not been fully reviewed by the Board of Assessors are the numbers that got plugged in to get our full tax levy, because they had Linda had to meet with the finance director to make those final numbers. And I think that was, what, slide 10?
Yes, and I actually did go through that with Brian LaFond,
Yes.
the chair of
Yes.
the Board of Assessors this afternoon, even though
I did not get to look at them until tonight because I was at work.
Yeah,
But
he did
Brian
go
went through
it.
them.
We reviewed the presentation
Yes.
together this afternoon.
And I looked through them this evening. and those
Mr. Chair,
look reasonable.
my understanding is that our board is only hearing the tax classification.
Yes.
So, to the previous speaker, who's on the very board who is requiring the numbers, all we're deciding is that we're going to have a split rate, and then we're going to accept the exemptions or not, and that the numbers are going to be from their board.
Yes.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, and
Okay.
we accepted the numbers from Vision at our last meeting.
So there is no, in both of your minds, there is no reason for us to delay our decision tonight?
No.
No.
Okay.
All right. We'll open it up to any other members of the public that wants to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan Proctor, 1529 Mass Ave, obviously a business owner in town, so I'm very happy with the presentation that Linda and Sarah made. It was very professional, so I would like to keep the tax rate the way it is. We pay enough in taxes as business owners, we don't need to pay anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? All right, seeing none, we will go to Zoom. Mr. Fortune, let me ask you to unmute.
Sure, thank you. John Fortune, 50 Hemlock Drive. Thank you for the presentation, Linda. It looked good. I think as people were concerned, as I am, about the different site indexes, what we were caught up with a couple of years ago was waterfront versus non-waterfront. Do you have any further information on the average value of a home that's on waterfront versus non-waterfront? Or the changes that were in that specific site index?
Hold on one second. Someone's going to come back up to answer that.
Thank you.
I can actually, if you'd like to send me an email, I have that downstairs. I don't believe there was much of an increase to the lakes, but if you want to send me an email, I can indicate that to you. I just don't want to quote anything that I don't have right now physically with me.
Okay. I'd be
Okay?
glad to do that. Thank
And
you.
were you able to see my email on the presentation?
No, but I can find it. That's not a
Okay,
problem.
yeah, or call the office, and I'd be glad to give you that information. Okay?
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want to say, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't think to bring that sheet with me because I found them so unremarkably different. Like, they're not that different from each other across all 5 site indexes, so I didn't even think of it as something to bring with me.
All right, thank you, Sarah. All right, thanks, John. All right, Mr. Bowen.
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
Great, how are you?
John Bowen, 162 Highland Street. I'm actually, I'm concerned about a couple of things. I can appreciate Mr. Proctor's public comment as a business owner. I myself am a business owner, but I run a business, an internet business. That being said, I am for the split tax rate, and I know there's a number of other folks are, and I'd just like to highlight a couple of points. The amount of money that's being spent right now by people in the water district is actually an increase in tax to be able to replace things that need to be done. So we'd be paying additional money. The override, we're paying additional money townwide. And businesses have opportunities, means, and availability of the resources to be able to increase their revenues, to be able to offset an extra couple $1,000s a year, where a homeowner does not, particularly I believe it's 1,300 elderly residents that are in town. I'm looking at all these factors. I'm also looking at smaller businesses with less than 10 employees on the exemption. And I think that the exemption for small businesses is an important one. Now, I grew up in Melrose, which is an affluent community. It was an affluent community when I grew up there. And I can tell you this, that one thing that Melrose did is that it took care of its town because its businesses in town agreed to pay more in taxes to be able to help those in town who cannot. And they do have apartment buildings and things like that in town, and it did benefit that community. If you drive through that community, they have great roads. You drive through that community, they have great businesses. They have well-pointed buildings. They don't have dilapidated structures on their town properties like we do in this town. And I think that to just do a single tax rate across the board is just not healthy for this community. I don't envision us taking in more businesses, but I think the majority of the businesses are under 10 employees. I know places like Chapter Lane and some other businesses have less than 10 employees working for them, and it'll benefit them to have that exemption. No, and I'm just mentioning them alone, but I mean, you know, you have restaurants in town, less than 10. You have other businesses, small businesses like, you know, web development companies, security companies, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of less than 10 businesses that'll benefit from that exemption, so they won't be hurt. Businesses with larger than that, well, they're making more money, they have more means, and I know Mr. Proctor makes a fortune in town because he does all the septic work. But in any case, I say that in jest, Mr. Proctor. But overall, you know, larger corporations and companies have means. I have means as an internet business. I spend a substantial amount of money monthly on advertising just to be able to get internet business. So I understand the cost of doing business. The more I spend on advertising, the more hits that I get to my business, the more sales that I make, and I can increase those sales based on increasing my advertising dollars. And I think that is a business's responsibility, and it shouldn't be falling on the back of the taxpayers, because what else are we going to do? Are we inviting more businesses into town? No, we're not. Do we have a plan for that? No, we don't. Then since we're stuck where we're at, then we should basically stay where we're at. And I think my recommendations will fit into the narrative. And I think that the assessor's statements that that's going to hurt businesses is an inappropriate statement for her position. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bowen. Are there any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the public hearing is now closed. So let's start discussing. We'll start with the split versus single tax rate. Are we in favor of accepting the assessor's recommendations to go with a single tax rate?
Yes.
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 All right, so yes from me too. Pretty straightforward. All right, and about the exemptions, are we on board with the recommendations to not adopt the 3 exemptions that were presented to us?
Yes.
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 All right, same here. Pretty straightforward.
You looking for a motion?
I am looking for a motion now.
Mr. Chair, I move for the Select Board to adopt a single tax classification. Make sure I got that wording right. Single rate tax classification, and to not adopt any available exemptions.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Linda, for coming in and for your great presentation, for answering all the questions, and John and Sarah as well. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Jack, I don't know why I called you John, by the way.
This is his name.
I know, but I never call him John. All right. All right, so moving on, I don't see Anthony here, so we'll skip to the request from Little League, which I learned is not actually what you guys are. You guys are not Little League, to use the old primary school property for T-ball in 2025. So it's a pretty straightforward request, but you can say whatever you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, TJ Laughlin, 207 Rolling Acres Road, Lunenburg Youth Baseball and Softball. Little League's the old name. Just a high-level request is to do the same agreement we had last year for exactly the same reasons. Skate park didn't happen last year. I think they plan on making that happen this year. So all the same reasons, all the same rules, recommendations, all that good stuff.
I'm assuming this agreement is last year's agreement, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Do you know what dates you actually were using the property for?
We start kind of when the snow melts, as soon as it gets not, slick and muddy. So that can be sometime in April, usually late April, early May. Sorry.
Any other questions?
You have the insurance still?
Yep, same
I
insurance.
have no objection to this being extended for the next season.
How did last year go? Any issues?
It was mixed. We had some really great comments. It's a different experience than where the T-ball field used to be. The old T-ball field is kind of fenced in and kind of a gravelly, we had some feedback before that it's like parking lot feel, and this is kind of a big open field. The families can kind of sit on the outside with their chairs, and they can bring family, and it's not crowded, and it's actually not dangerous. So the T-ball field at Marshall, the parking lot is right there, and so the kids and the family of the kids are running around in the parking lot, and they have the playground, but they're right there. So that benefit of everything off to the side with the parking lot actually was really useful.
But you had a mixed review because it wasn't as dangerous?
No, the mixed review was that the field isn't really well kept. We just made it work.
Right.
So we had a four-wheeler or a truck drive on it, so we had to repair that. And it's not the most flat, which I think you guys even called out last year, but the kids can't hit that far in T-ball, so we made that work. And we had some poison ivy, so we had to remediate that, and there's a hill in the back, so we put up a temporary fence because they kept throwing the balls down the hill. And actually, the fences became a target, so the kids would throw the ball over the fence down the hill. So we tried. We did our best. But overall, it's good. And same thing as last year is we're not asking for a permanent allocation there, really just to accommodate the skate park. And then as Marshall Park project moves on or whatnot, we'll figure it out from there. But one more year, hopefully, skate park gets built, which I assume is why he's here, and then we'll figure it out from there.
All right, cool. Any other questions?
No, I just want to comment, though, that, sorry.
I guess I don't have many questions either, other than I'm glad to hear that we're using the property. And I also played T-ball there back when the school was still built, so it's
nice.
funny to have that come back around when I was in kindergarten.
I will say there's an achievement today is Mr. Jeffries knows what T-ball is this year, which
That I did actually know. I didn't learn that Little League is like a separate.
it's a
I don't
special
actually know
organization,
what, but
yeah.
Yeah, all right,
Exactly.
cool. All right, so is there a motion
Well, I have
then?
two.
I would move
Oh,
that
you
we
wanna-
approve
Go ahead,
the...
Michael Ray has
One more.
two things.
No problem.
First, I wanted to commend, the adults that kind of oversee this for the resourcefulness of all the parents. I know it's been you guys have all had to kind of dip into your own pockets to kind of make this work. And then, the second thing is, the Municipal Building Design Committee, as we talk about parking for the design, I think everyone envisions that it's going to eat into a portion of what was or what is now a green space. And I think it would be helpful, given that you've used the space, if you can attend a upcoming Municipal Building Design Committee meeting and vocalize, the need to kind of replicate in many ways. What I'm getting at is there's a hill that kind of drops off.
Yeah.
And it seems that, if we were to take a fourth of that green space or a third of it away, that may have an impact. If Marshall Park takes a little bit longer, that may have an impact on the usability of it. And so it would be helpful if you can kind of provide some of those like minimum dimensions of how big a green space needs to be, so that way, as we plan a parking lot, maybe we plan a little fill in a back area there. So that would be helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely consider that. I've watched a few of the meetings now, but happy to attend.
All right, I will let you know when they're upcoming. We do have public comments on both ends, and then, of course, the public can speak at any time during the meeting. So if you happen to drop in, you can always just drop in and say, hey, I missed public comment, but I got something to say.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And I fully support the request as well. So is there a motion?
I move that we approve the request to use the old primary school property for T-ball with the Lunenburg Youth Baseball and Softball, Inc., as presented tonight.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming in tonight, TJ.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, so I was looking for Anthony, but I guess I should have been looking for someone else. So we'll go to the meeting with the Lunenburg Skate Park for the request for a letter of support for grants. And Michael Ray, did you have any
I did not, I was not able to complete the letter, but I will make sure that we get that, depending on how the board responds. I know you guys have a date of December 31st, so I'll make sure we have that for our next meeting.
Okay.
So I'm here to support my buddy, Anthony Caiozzo. My name's Greg Roy, 105 Chestnut Street. I'm not on the board anymore of the skate park. My son was a skate park kid. I'm a consultant to the skate park, and I have no idea what we're asking you for this year. But I'm here to stand here and hopefully cover for my buddy. If he's
Yeah.
I know he had something at school tonight, so
So
he was
he's
just late.
applying for a grant
Okay.
through T-Mobile
Okay,
to
yeah.
close up the gap.
Gotcha,
And
okay.
basically, he just wants to submit a letter of support that's signed off on
Gotcha,
by
yeah.
the select board.
So obviously,
Yep.
we would appreciate your support. You know,
Well said.
We're north of $200,000. I'm not sure the exact numbers. There's a small delta that we need to close that gap. We do intend to move as quickly as we can with the project. So we're trying to close that gap with haste. We have received some other, private donations. They keep trickling in. So, yeah, I wish I could share more with the folks.
I think that's really all we need.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is, adding on to what the chair just said, was that they had applied for this grant previously. It's a $50,000 grant, and it comes through T-Mobile quarterly. And that you guys have applied for it previously and were denied. And the reason for the declination was that they wanted to see more letters of support from the community. And so, there's no stronger letter of support than from the, town executive for a project. And so, speaking with Anthony briefly, he did send me the grant information, so, if the board is willing to accept this request, I have no problem drafting the letter. I'm familiar with I've done enough grant review, I'm familiar with what these things look like, what they need to say, that I can pair it and have the board review it. And he did mention that so long as he has it by the deadline, December 31st, he's good to go.
Great. And we've committed, just for anybody in the room that's listening, we have committed in an ongoing fashion to do this with private dollars, and this is, part of that commitment. It's not we're not standing here asking for funds from town meeting or anything like that. So we certainly do appreciate support you can provide in this capacity in our endeavor to continue raising private support. And, you've been a strong, we've said this over and over again. Every time I come here, we view this as a partnership. You guys have always been terrific, and we appreciate that throughout the process. So, sounds like you guys have it figured out more than I do.
Well, I fully support it, and I would be willing to, allow you to write it and really not even have to review it again, because I trust that it's going to be fine for the purposes, but it's up to what other board
Well,
members
the board
think.
probably need to sign it, so
Yeah.
I think maybe if I make the motion, I'll make it so that way I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move for the select board to provide a letter of support for the Lunenburg Skate Parks T-Mobile grant.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, and so what I'll...
Reviewing this before it gets sent. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
what I can do is I can prepare this, have it for our next meeting, so that way we can wordsmith it, make changes. Again, we have some time to provide this, so.
Will you keep Anthony in the loop on that?
I will, he and I will review it together and...
Perfect.
All right, great. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes
Was
unanimously.
it seconded?
It was, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Amanda seconded.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Roy.
All right, so it looks like you guys have an agenda that isn't the most current. It was revised on Thursday or Friday to include an appointment to the Agricultural Commission. It is on the agenda, it's not on the paper agenda that's in front of you. So we'll move on to the ratification of the appointment of Agricultural Commission Ryan Stober, term to expire June 2027. I'll just ask you to introduce yourself and why you're interested in being on the Agricultural Commission.
Ryan Stober, I live on Pierce Ave. I know some of you here. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, I grew up in the ag world. My dad graduated Cornell with dairy science. I spent a lot of time at Stockbridge and UVM, and I like to farm. I don't own a farm. I work a real job, like in a business, but I help out all my friends who farm, and I find it rewarding. And I'm trying to help the AgCom bring more community events to the people. I think there's a lot of small farms in town. Just trying to get the word out, see what Lunenburg produces, and I think they're kind of fun. The Ag Fair was great, and that kind of put a little bit more life into me, wanted to rejoin. I joined in 2015, and I resigned in 2019, I think. So I'm coming back. I think it's going to be fun. I think we have a good group of people, and I think we're just going to do some fun events in town.
Well, it's good to know the event inspired you to volunteer again.
Yes.
All right, I'll open it up to any questions or comments from the board.
I'm glad to see him volunteer. I mean, it's always a good sign when somebody was on something and comes back to it, so, and I know Ryan, so I know he'll be excellent in this role, and I think he'll fill, it's actually nice having someone in the AgCom who has an AgCom background, but actually isn't in AgCom, so brings a different perspective, which is nice.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right, is there a motion then?
Now, this is an appointment by the board. We're not ratifying. This is actually our appointment, correct?
Yes.
So I move that we appoint Ryan Stober to the Agricultural Commission with a term to expire, and I need somebody to fill in that date.
June 2027.
June 2027.
Second.
Sorry.
Yes.
It's a full member
Yes.
position, yes. We had a question from the audience. All right, so motion was made and seconded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, so
Thank you.
congratulations. Thank you for wanting to volunteer again.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the interim town manager report.
First, I would like to repeat the thank you to all who took time out of their evening last Tuesday to attend the special town meeting. I think the debate, which was spirited, showed us additional items of concern to work on over the coming months. I'll be working with the chair of the Budget Task Force to do a talk of the town as soon as we can lock his schedule in, to try to generate a little more interest from the public in their work. With respect to our projects, the library exterior paint project was completed within time frame and on budget. Punch list is all done. We are awaiting the delivery of the warranty to issue the certificate of completion. The Adult Activity Center generator was inspected, and in doing so, the electrical inspector pulled a panel on some work that hadn't been part of that contract, but they were just checking something, found a little bit of corrosion, so there was a small change order for that. The fence change order with the funding that you approved at your meeting last week has been issued, and there will be some minor regrading associated with that. So of the $12,000 you approved, it came to a total of $12,033. The Adult Activity Center roofing work commenced this week, and if weather holds, we hope it'll be closed out by the week's end. So far, in the first 2 days here, no change orders have been needed. We await submittals from the contractors for the DPW roof and flooring, and we expect those projects to start on or about December 1. The town hall roof and library teen room projects are both expected to start by January 1, and the contracts are being circulated for final submissions and signature. The Municipal Building Design Committee is meeting tomorrow evening with their preferred vendor, and we're awaiting the results of that so we can proceed to get that contract signed up as well. I have asked the facilities director to push forward with the HVAC replacement bids at the Adult Activity Center. They're part of your fiscal '23 capital budget. But given all the other projects, and I'd rather he spend a little more time doing some clerking of the works, keeping his eye on it, it'll probably be January 1 before they go out to bid. But by the time we get bids in, contract awarded, I think that we'll be, probably on or about April 1 for actual installation, get them tested for the cooling season. So that'll actually work out. To date, we have not received any formal questions on the Ritter projects, so we've not had to issue an addenda, and bids remain due on the 3rd of December. The audio update for the Bellata Room is scheduled to begin on Tuesday, November 26th, and be completed at the end of the day on Wednesday, November 27th. There won't be able to be meetings in here due to the changes in the audio and the cable controls, as I understand it. We have notified all the committees and the staff today, and there weren't any meetings scheduled for those days anyways. With respect to our recruitment efforts, interviews for the Council on Aging Director took place today, and a second round, that is with additional candidates, will happen next week and finish that up. And at present, it looks like we'll be able to have some minor overlap with Ms. Doherty and the new hire, and Ms. Doherty's indicated a willingness to come back after January 1 for any training or questions. We had a little bit of disappointment in that we had completed interviews yet again for a sewer business manager and made an offer, but unfortunately, the preferred candidate declined our offer. So at this point, the position remains posted, along with a police officer, a videographer for PAC, and an assistant to the sewer business manager. So those are the 4 positions currently being posted, and if it hasn't been done yet, we will be posting. We'll take another run at the network administrator, trying to get that position filled and dealt with. The following boards and committees have vacancies. The Agricultural Commission, one of them filled here tonight. Architectural Preservation District Commission, Board of Health, Concom, Cultural Council, Finance Committee, Green Communities, Historical Commission, Library Board of Trustees, the Master Plan Steering Committee, Public Access Cable Committee, Stormwater Task Force, and Zoning Board of Appeals. I want to circle back to the Personnel Committee. Each of that first group have sufficient members to meet and quorum and conduct business. The Personnel Committee does not. So I wanted to address that specifically because there was quite a bit of conversation about that at the special town meeting. The APTC and the Historical Commission have made a request to be combined into one. I have developed an approach the town council believes will work, subject to town meeting approval at the annual town meeting, but we're going to bring it in front of you at your next meeting to get your formal indication as to whether or not you wish council and I to work on this. And I'll invite the chair of the APDC and the chair of the Historical Commission to that meeting. I believe it's December 3rd, if member serves me correctly. We did talk a little bit last night at the Budget Task Force with the tax bills coming up, possibly doing a stuffer into it, 8.5 by 11, with the patterned along the lines of the letter that the chair wrote for the special town meeting booklet, trying to encourage volunteerism. I just need to look at the budget. It's about $1,000, but I want to make sure that the budget can handle that. And I want to, actually, there's sort of a little bit of, I guess, telepathic here, because I had asked Annie to start slotting the chair of a committee onto each select board meeting to speak to the board and the public, for a few short minutes of what they were doing. And the ag chair appeared to talk to the community about the kinds of events they're going to be doing. And so we're going to try to get a chair of a committee, just for a few minutes, to try to explain to the community what that committee does, what events they engage in, the role that they are, and hopefully someone will see those little, snippets and perhaps generate some interest within additional volunteers.
I just want to point out, I didn't see that first when I read this, but we do normally do that around this time of year, right? In December, we get updates from our appointed commissions and committees, so it is right around the time that we do normally do that, so that kind of works out, actually.
Okay, good. And I will add that as a note to the procedures manual that we really should be working on. In terms of my personal activity, as you know, I attended the special town meeting, the select board meeting, the budget task force last night, as well as the Marshall Park team meeting to firm up their turnback number, working with the finance team on the tax recap today with Linda and Izzy. And I signed off on our property insurance renewal for 2 years. We'll have a 0% increase for FY '26, according to the letter that we received, and a 2.5% cap on any increases for FY '27. If only our health insurance was as positive. We did meet, as I told you, I believe, with the Maya representative. We met again to look at our loss ratio report. We paid out, or they paid out on our behalf, about 102% of the premiums that we sent to them. They try to be at around 90% so that they have enough money for small reserve and their administrative expenses. We were told that we may be at the higher trend rate. This is not a specific number. They'll come in, they'll tell us what it's looking like, and the trend rate is at 12 to 15% is what we were told. We won't get our actual renewals, as you know, until mid-January. We'll try to have some follow-up conversations. We're looking at the decrements, the high service. I have a meeting, high deductible plans. We meet with town council tomorrow to talk about whether or not and how to put those forward. We continue to try to catch up on our public records request. Interestingly, our last public records request for a list of our last 10 public records requests.
So we have public records requests for public records requests.
Yes.
What a great use of our time.
Well, it's their right, but we'll keep trying to catch up on those. Sometimes, I started looking for a batch of about 100 and, I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate, 25 plus or minus today, and most of it was pretty innocuous, but you do have to go through all of them because there's personal emails in some of them. There's personal telephone numbers in some of them. And I don't want to be the guy that lets out somebody's personal information. So in this one particular records request, it was actually pretty easy to pull the records. But now we'll just have to work through them tomorrow. At the staff meeting tomorrow, we will debrief on the STM, the special town meeting, as you will shortly, and lay out a work plan to undertake the special town meeting article relative to the Brooks House. And that is all I have for you this week, unless there are any questions with respect to any of that or any other matters.
Any questions for Carter?
I have one. Is my memory correct? This is the second time we have a sewer business manager candidate that rejected our offer?
I think it's actually the third.
Okay. Can you speak to, or is it all for the same reason? Is it anything related to what we discussed at special town meeting? What's the takeaway message from these? 3 strikes and we're out.
Well, I'm not sure that the person that rejected our offer, frankly, merited the request that the monetary request they were making. The other challenge that we have from time to time is sometimes we have excellent employees who leave us, and perhaps they're at, I'm not going to use dollar figures, but the next person coming in wants incrementally more. And there is some resistance within the organization to paying that, and I understand that. You had a good employee, they've left you, you liked them, they were making X, and now comes new unknown quantity that wants X plus. Unfortunately, that is sometimes the marketplace. You've hired somebody back here, and they've gone up a little bit, but the market has gone completely crazy. We did sit with Bill, we asked him to look at manners in which, if at all, the job could be reorganized. I don't want to get into, great detail, but is there a way to send the billing file, to prepare the billing file and send it out to a private printing company, Bill Trust, others? I don't know. That takes a lot of time right now. And, we'll have that conversation with them. I don't know what to say to you. This has been one of the longer jobs that's been open since I've been with you. Although they've all been open for a bit.
I have a follow-up question about that job specifically, if it's okay.
Mhm.
For your turn.
There
I'm
are no
concerned-
terms, by the
No,
way.
I know, but we usually go down the line.
Yeah, which I'm against, so you should just discuss when you come up.
The sewer billing, I am concerned about that. Has there been any thought about maybe a temporary employee, or, looking at a staffing agency, which I know we've done in the past, to fill vacancies like this, even just to move some of the things along? I mean, I know our previous employee, who is my mom, is helping when she can, but
Yeah.
is there anything being done in the meantime to try to move this along? Because that's going to be a problem, and I'm not sure how or when the billing is going to go out, so I don't know. I'm sure you're having those conversations, but
We are having those conversations. We did authorize overtime for one of the current employees to at least process the accounts payable, to make sure the bills are getting moved through the system. The foreign has been terrific about coming in and giving us some additional time. We are going to talk with the contractor, and Bill, I suggested that he talk with the water district itself. They generate the initial readings. Is it possible that they could generate a billing file and send that out? What would that take them? What would we need to pay them? What would that look like in terms of finding a temporary? I just don't know that we could call up, Savvy Staffing or somebody like that around here and find somebody skilled in this area. But we are trying to think outside the box and look at every possibility.
not an easy spot to be in, I get it, just.
I think as a comment, our previous full-time sewer business manager thought that the grade rating was too low for what the job entailed, and it sounds like what you're saying is that most of the applicants are concurring. Is that accurate?
They're not saying that the grade itself is too low.
Well, the pay.
They're asking for a step. They're basically asking for top step.
Okay, so okay, I follow. So top step in a grade is still usually more money than the bottom of the next step, of the next grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so,
Top step in that grade's over 100,000, I think. It's over 100,000 for top step in that grade, I believe.
I don't know off the top.
okay. But it sounds like they're wanting more money than what the,
I have to suggest that when you have vacancies, you need to take a step back and always consider a couple of questions. Do you wish to continue to provide the service? In this case, yes, you have to. You have a sewer department. Is there any other way to provide all or some of the services? Possibly. Does the job description need to be reconsidered, and is it appropriately rated? And I think that all too often, communities, there's a vacancy and they just advertise the vacancy. And so what I've asked Bill and Julie to work with me to go through that process. In the meantime, we'll continue to put it out there. We'll try to figure out some workarounds. But I'm not convinced that every time a job is vacant, you just try to refill it exactly the same way.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Carter. All right, we'll move on to old business, and up first is ARPA. So I compiled a list of all of the requests, so we can go through line by line and start with getting status updates and discussing all of them. Let me just pull it up real quick and share my screen.
In our drive, can you just tell us which file it is?
It should be the only Excel spreadsheet under ARPA.
Okay.
It's like committed and uncommitted.
Yep.
Complete list. All right, so I'm sharing my screen now. Let me just move this over. We have Zoom blocking the way. All right, so the first one, Town Manager, Consultant for ARPA Reporting, which was reprogrammed into ARPA Administration and IT Staffing. That was originally for $60,000, but it's listed as zero because you'll see the second request on this list, payroll staff salaries of $72,470. That includes the $60,000. Those two were lumped together. So the first one is closed out. The second one is total paid to date, $33,000, just about. So is there anything else you want to say on this one, Carter?
Excel.
May I ask you to orient us
That's what this
to
is.
just
Oh,
the
dear.
columns, and can you just explain?
Yeah, sure.
Kind of how it's formatted here?
Yeah, so requester, that's pretty straightforward. That's the board, department, or organization that requested the money and received the money. The project name is what it's for. Committed as of 11/19/2024. So that takes into consideration some of the reallocations that we did. So there's amount originally committed. I think that's pretty straightforward. So an example for this one, it would be, Municipal Building Design Committee. That would be $225,000, right? We reallocated $40,000, so what was actually committed is $185,000.
How can I miss the line when it's?
Total paid to date is the amount of money that has gone to that organization or department for the project, and remaining balance is the amount that's still remaining, whether it needs to be
Amount
reallocated
obligated.
or not. So this one is one that Ezekiel put in. So that is, so for some of the pricing or projects that came out to a different price,
This was all.
amount obligated is the amount that was the actual total price of it.
All right, so like as.
Carter, is there anything that you want to add on that column?
Yeah.
No?
So as an example, like for the
Hold on
ambulance.
one second. Tom has a question.
I just, because I saw that none of this was available until today. Before I came here today, I printed it out because following it on a spreadsheet, and now, from the time I did that, which was like 4:45 till now, I can't even follow along because it's already been modified. Like, it's so crazily frustrating that I cannot prepare for the meetings because we get stuff, even though we asked for this last Wednesday, we get stuff literally less than an hour or an hour and a half before we're going to go over with our meeting. I mean, how can anybody keep up with that? I mean, we just can't keep doing this.
Well, it was still being worked on as of 3 PM. Ezekiel went through and updated a lot of it, and it was in the drive at that point. It was updated after that, so
Yeah, my
this
printout's
is the time
different.
for us to go through all of it.
Yeah, but this is not the time, this is the time for us to discuss it, not to refine where things were as you're going through, because I'm looking at my list, I'm like, where are these things? Anyway, it's just very frustrating.
So as an example, if I look at ambulance for select board, how I would read this is that we committed 506, but the actual amount of it is 461,042, whatever, and so there's a difference, I guess when I'm at, okay. So if we can just follow the ambulance line, just so I can try to make sense of it. So we have 506 committed. We get to the total paid amount, we've only paid 44,000. The amount obligated is 461. I haven't done the math, but if we do 44,000,
It's 505, 323, 44.
The
And s-
remaining balance is the difference between the addition of the total paid to date and the amount obligated compared to the original amount committed. That's the remaining balance.
okay.
There's actually a formula in the cell, if you click on it. I don't,
Yeah. so
but I don't
add-
understand the formula that's in there. The amount obligated for the ambulance says, the formula that makes up that 461,000 says 452, 693 plus 8349.96. I have no, where do those numbers come from?
All right, so it might have been helpful to have Ezekiel here for this. Some of it is a little in the weeds for the accounting purposes. You know, it's kind of, at least my initial take on what we're looking at right now. But some of them are very specific. Like one of them, for example, I think it was the IV pumps, right? It required like an initial payment of 15%, and that is the amount that's been sent out, paid to date, and the remainder is the rest of the price. So then there's a remaining balance, which is helpful for Ezekiel, right? Part of this spreadsheet is also for Ezekiel, not just us. I think it's more important to look at the number committed and whether or not any of that needs to be reallocated tonight or not, and to ask for specific updates on each of these as we feel is appropriate. But a lot of this is a little in the weeds. That's Ezekiel specifically created for that.
To me, it looks like the remaining balance column sometimes indicates, hey, it came in less than we planned, and that's what we have extra, and sometimes it's because none of it's been spent yet.
Yep.
And I think it would be, those should be separated out, because the whole goal is to find out what do we have that's not committed.
We have that. That's in here.
Well, I saw that number. I guess, I don't know if I have
It is.
confidence in that number.
Column C has been triple, quadruple checked by me, Carter, Ezekiel, and all of this is updated. So if you go down for the total, that's the current amount that is allocated.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Google Drive. Is column C committed column?
Yes.
Okay.
Less any reallocations that have occurred to date.
So does the committed column, the amount in the committed column reflect if it's completed and it came in under the original?
If we know about a price change and we have adjusted for it, then yes. So I'll give you an example of that. If you look at the library exterior envelope, we originally committed 60,000. It came in at 33,000. There's 27,000 left over to reallocate. 15 of which, if you look at the comment, we already reallocated last week. And 12 of which is still remaining to be reallocated.
Well, you actually committed that to the generator.
No, the 12, no, that was potentially for the tree removal. All right. I understand it's frustrating to look at this and not fully understanding where all of these are at. But I think if we just continue going, it'll have an opportunity for us to ask questions and get them answered as needed. Are there any projects that you guys want an update on? I'm not going to go through line by line.
Why?
Are there any we know of that are in danger of not? So committed, this is the ARPA committed definition?
Not just yet.
No, so committed is us allocating the money.
Okay, so are any of these in the committed column in danger of actually not meeting the December 31 deadline?
Yes.
Which would mean we would, okay, which ones? Because
The library,
Which part of it?
Which
The teen room?
107,
And why is that?
without a source of contingency.
Right.
we can't or shouldn't execute the contract.
And how much do we need for contingency?
We were
What
looking
is
at
it,
25,
10%?
we were looking at 25,000.
Yeah.
So
And
25% contingency. okay.
The problem is the smaller the number, it doesn't take much of an item to really blow it up.
Okay.
And the contingency is the one that we were discussing last Wednesday about putting that money into tree removal so that it would be available to go to that if it comes up after December 31st.
To Renee's question, the rest of them, as a for instance, you approved, I think, $74,000 for a stretcher. It's not on the state bid list. It can't be a sole procurement. We don't have time to put a bid spec together. So what we did was we sent the chief back to the drawing board to find out other cooperative purchasing programs that may have put this type of stretcher out to bid, whether it's Plymouth County Consortium, Metropolitan Planning Commission. There are a number of these kinds of consortiums, JPT and others, and he found one that, in fact, the Fire Chiefs Association belongs to, and they bid that. So now we're in the process of just making sure we have the backup material so we can go ahead and sign that contract. They're not huge wrinkles, but we do find them as we work our way through this. So the only one that I'm really concerned about is the teen room.
Did you get an answer from town council about the tree service maneuver?
Yes.
Yes.
And what was
I
it?
didn't get a chance to pull it off, pull the email off. The short answer is that we can do what we proposed if the money came to us straight from the Treasury Department. Turns out, for some reason, yours didn't. Yours came through the state, which means we need to go through the original ARPA rules. All these projects, I believe, meet that test. Now, I sent back an email of, yeah, but so I don't see how that challenges the baseline proposal. You're saying if it's done under this set of rules, yeah, you can do that, but now you got to look at this set of rules. I've sent that email out when I got the follow-up response. I don't have that, but I do not believe that it is a problem. That said, I want to get the formal response from council to satisfy concerns.
So something that the library trustees mentioned to me was that if they need additional funds for the teen center, that they can lean onto the Friends of the Lunenburg Public Library for that difference. So if the issue is that we need a $20,000, $25,000 contingency, could it be that the Friends of the Lunenburg Public Library provides it? Still complying with prevailing wage requirements, et cetera.
You can.
It would just be a gift.
Do you consider a pledge the equivalent of cash on hand sufficient to run the risk of signing the contract? You did ask us to look at payroll. I've included a memorandum on that. This early in the year, I'm not sure that there is payroll to generate an internal contingency. But as long as the source of the contingency can be identified, yes, the contract can be signed.
All right, I can follow up with because they mentioned that to me previously. I will follow up with them to see if they are still good on that offer, because, you know, as the chair expressed to me, they want the product to move forward, and if it's a matter of small, not small, but 20,000, 30,000, he felt confident that they could bridge that divide.
It may be nothing. I don't know till
Okay.
we open walls.
All right, I'll follow up with them to see what kind of commitment they can make, that way that contract can get signed and if they can provide that contingency. And I'll have him reach out as well, Carter, to you, that way you guys have that direct.
I'll sign the contract in my official capacity, not as an individual, but sure.
All right, thank you.
But that's the only project that really has me a little bit nervous.
But we have $222,000 that hasn't even been allocated, so we should be able to resolve that in one vote of this board.
I think the issue is that we're not going to know the contingency need until after December 31st.
Well, that's why we have that contingency plan if we wanted to go with that we reached out to town council for. So it's up to us whether or not that's what we want to pursue. We could allocate that and have that contingency plan from ARPA funds if we wanted to. It's just up to us to decide. All right, are there any other questions about projects
Yeah.
that we're currently committed
Well, we
on?
had questions last week about some of the quotes were out of date. Do you have clarification on that?
I'd have to go back and look, but I believe the body-worn cameras, quote, came back in, spot on.
I think it was the DPW excavator and the trailer. I think that was.
I
one
don't
that was-
believe I have any other quotes back in yet that I asked to have refreshed. But I did get the body-worn cameras back. And we have to resolve which cooperative we can purchase the lift stretcher through before I can get a final price.
And there is also the fencing that came in today,
The-
$33 over.
Yeah,
So if we wanted to allocate that with ARPA, that's an option as well, instead of figuring out a
Yeah,
different way to come
the
up with
change
that.
order on the generator, the fencing, and the related work, that is in now. The roofing, so far, nothing. Everything seems fine.
So really, the contingency that you need is for the teen center.
Yeah, I think everything else we can work out.
Okay. So do you want to still propose to the board that we move forward with your contingency plan, since we heard back from town council?
Well, I want to firm that up, but I still believe that's a viable plan.
Okay.
If you have an alternative plan you'd like us to pursue, such as was just mentioned, I'm happy to pursue that as well.
All right.
I think if I may request, it may be helpful if, I don't know when the correspondence came in from town council, but it's always helpful when those are forwarded to the full board, so that way, we can have the most information available.
Around 4:50 this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right. I've not seen it either, FYI. All right, so I think that's the only things that are remaining right now. It's deciding if we want to do that contingency plan, deciding if we want to allocate $33 for the fencing. Other than that, everything is not needing to be reallocated, at least I'll put it that way. And then there's a remainder of $222,499.88 that we do need to commit as well.
Don't we need to formally reallocate the parks money? Did we do that, Marshall?
Yes, I did have a question. We can formally deallocate that money or update the allocation from 1 million to, what is it, 200,250 So we can do that.
I think on that note, my only question to, through you, Mr. Chair, to the interim town manager is the Parks Commission under contract? I think the answer is yes. Are they under contract for the $200,250?
They are not as of yet, because when you decide if you're going to spend this $200,250, we have to effectively stop the contracts they're with now and issue a new task order with the current numbers. So they have an umbrella contract, but we've got to amend that, if you will, to issue a very specific task work order.
Is that in process?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're confident that'll be done within the next month?
Once you tell me you're continuing with this project, yes. I have to say that I think the park turnback caught everyone by surprise. We've known it less than, I think, 3 weeks. But I do want to thank Julie and Chris Ruth. And I know I've kind of been a bit of an ogre to them, but we have really pushed out in the last 6 weeks. Some of these projects go back to fiscal '22 and fiscal '23 on the capital side. And these ARPA projects have been here for over a year. So I am confident that we can get those task orders written and executed in time.
Do we want to make a motion to change the allocation for the Marshall Park project from $1 million to $200,250?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously.
This is kind of a minor question, but the Village at Flat Hill trustees, I thought that work was done. Are we just, am I missing? It says $0 has been paid.
The Historical Commission work is done. We've actually paid those invoices out.
I'm sorry, I'm referring to Village at Flat
For the
Hill.
detention basin that we
Yeah,
sent
I'll
them.
I'll have to double check. We didn't send them any money. We don't send money out ahead of time.
But it is fully under contract, right?
I thought the work was done.
That's my
I
recollection.
thought it was finished.
Right?
Yeah, I thought it was complete like a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll double check with Bill tomorrow at the staff meeting.
So of the $222,499, so in this uncommitted request, it looks like several kind of come in the last month or so, and then the rest of it seems to be historical as of August of this year, but
Yeah, I
not
didn't go
the
back
first
till last
round?
year
Okay.
to, add them in. So we did receive new requests during the past week. So we got some from the Lunenburg Historical Society and the Boys and Girls Club as well. So the Boys and Girls Club put in requests for the remainder of the FY25 after-school program for their payroll. They're asking for the full amount of $100,000 that's available or that still needs to be paid out for that program, knowing very well that we might allocate less. 5 computers so that they can have coding and digital literacy education classes in the amount of $5,649.95. A 3D printer in the amount of $699.98. 1 passenger van in the amount of $48,680. And then the Lunenburg Historical Society is requesting HVAC upgrades for the attic, $499. Wire shelving units, $1,400. Seating for their display and meeting rooms for $4,000. Computer upgrades, $999.99. And a glass negative scanner in the amount of $1,299. And pretty much all of those quotes are in the drive as well.
Yeah. I appreciate, I know that was mentioned at the last meeting. I think I brought up that I was in favor of more money going to the Historical Society and the Boys and Girls Club. That money goes really far in their hands, but I know there's a lot of other requests, but, I fully support what they're asking for, but what is our, what are the expectations of the board this evening in terms of committing?
Well, it's our decision. How much of it do we want to commit and for what for? That is a board decision. My advice, and I'm sure Carter's would be too, is that we need to decide soon and not leave $222,000 unallocated going into December.
We finally determined that if we wanted to put whatever remaining money we has on our last meeting, if we want to put them into the vehicle purchases, we can do that? Okay. As long as we have it out, because, again, we have 3 scheduled meetings between now and the end of the year. That's it.
Yep.
So,
I am expecting an invoice for those trucks on or about December 15. If I can get some of the roof at the DPW and the flooring underway, so I have a better sense of where we are, that provides me with a terrific flexibility by knowing that we might use that as our final out.
So I don't see the increase, the request from the Munis, moving Munis to the cloud. It's still showing up as, the 108,000 for the committed request, the initial.
So we went through the numbers with Izzy this morning, and he sent off to Munis what my questions were to try to get a bottom line number, and they've not gotten back to him as of yet. I can tell you that they are working with legal to commit to a 2-year contract with a 10% discount for each of the years, as we were asked to follow up on last week.
So if I go back, it was, just to get a ballpark, it was 126,000 roughly, was
That-
what, as we presented a couple weeks ago now.
That's correct, and they've said that is for a fiscal year.
That was 1 year.
This fiscal year. It's not for
Yeah.
it's not for a calendar year.
Yep.
And they will give us a discount of what we've paid. What I asked Izzy to go back and check on, if we deploy this in January, are they giving us a discount for only the 6 months we don't use of the new system, or is it all 12 months? That was the first one. The second one was that their quote doesn't include training. So we've got to get a training number from them, and that training, I learned, will not be on-site. So we would have to bring a local expert in to do some of the on-site training. So those are some of the numbers. I'm waiting so I can get to a bottom line number.
Because, speaking for myself, I want to address this. However, as he recommends doing it, I want to have money to do whatever he recommends. So I don't know how much to set aside other than I know it's going to be north of 126.
Yeah, I think it would be wise of us to not commit too much this evening and to preserve it. I would like to hit some of these minor requests, and minor in the sense of like lower dollar values that likely won't have significant impact. I know the Boys and Girls Club doesn't have computers. I know that the kids use the library. $5,600 for computers and $700 for a 3D printer seems really straightforward to me. And then I think on the historical requests that have come in, they're under 10 grand for the glass negative scanner, for the computer upgrades, the seating and display in meeting rooms, and wire shelving units, HVAC in the attic. I think that's only, 8 grand or something like that. So I'm interested in making that decision tonight, but not too much more than that.
Yep.
So if I add up, I just quickly did, so if you're looking at, that sheet, wait,
I can do the math too.
So all of it that
Looks
came in
different.
with the Boys and Girls Club and the Historical Society, as it's currently listed, is
Not the van and not the
van and
not payroll.
Okay.
And
Well, I
the
was just
payroll,
going to say
yeah.
it's 163,000.
Yeah.
But if we just do the smaller items, take out the van and the payroll, it's $14,547.92.
How much is that?
$14,547.92.
I'll make that motion.
Hold on one second. I just really want to verify this.
Yeah, 14,547.92, that's what I get.
Yeah.
And getting back to the there's already 108,000 that was committed,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, but
Wasn't
if,
there a $60,000 I thought we were at 186, and I don't have my notebook. I thought it was
It's about 120,600 or
Right, but that
something
was-
Six.
But I
per
thought that there was an
year.
additional
And then the onboarding
setup.
cost.
Yeah, we both had a
That was included.
Yeah,
$66,000
we had-
setup.
No, we had it separate. We had 186
We both had the
total.
same number, so.
Yeah.
It's a $6,000.
We need, yeah, we need a. we
Six, not
just
60?
need the
Because we
number.
both had 60 from.
6,000.
Yeah, talking to Ezekiel earlier
That
today
makes
was
more
6,000.
sense.
Yeah.
Way more sense.
60
'cause we both
grand
were
is-
like
I know.
60.
Yeah, 60,000, no, that would
That-
be
that
absurd.
said,
I mean, it's
I-
already absurd, but.
I really want to be a little bit more comfortable.
Me too.
With the end number.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we leave enough.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think, as I understood that, Renee, I mean, roughly it's 240 grand, because we were talking about prepaying 2 years, roughly. And we have 108 of it committed, so that leaves 132.
We still have a good amount.
Of the two. So I'm comfortable with the small amount today. I like the contingency of vehicles if we need to get to that point. And then, you know, I definitely need more time to digest this, to come up with some potential clarifying questions, which I can send via email. But I'm only looking to do a small commitment today.
Yeah, I can understand that. So we can definitely do that. I think we are still going to wait for the town council email to go to everyone, I think, maybe, to discuss the contingency for tree removal for the
When I
teen
have a
center.
town council opinion that doesn't leave lots of questions.
Right.
I'll be happy to circulate it to you. That's why it wasn't circulated, because I hit reply and said, yeah, but, what about?
Yeah.
And, you know, the only thing between now and December 3 is if we can identify an alternative source of the contingency, I can go ahead and sign the library contract. If we can't, I shouldn't.
All right.
And I will follow up with them tonight. And then I'm sure that I'll get an answer tonight, and I'll have it emailed over tomorrow.
My impressions when I sat down and went through line by line all this like 2 or 3 times this afternoon with Ezekiel and Carter is that the teen center and the Munis are really the concerning ones, at least for me, so.
Teen center, teen room in the library.
The teen room in the library.
And only because of contingency.
Yes.
All right. So I'll get.
Yeah,
that.
we have solid numbers on the rest of the contract.
All right.
Yep.
And we are working to collect the performance bonds and everything else.
All right, so do we want to make a motion on some of these smaller items?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make it. I move to commit $5,649.95 to the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club for 5 computers for coding and digital literacy education, $699.98 to the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club for a 3D printer, $499 to the Lunenburg Historical Society for HVAC upgrades in the attic, $1,400 to the Lunenburg Historical Society for wire shelving units, $4,000 to the Lunenburg Historical Society for seating and display in meeting rooms, $999.99 to the Lunenburg Historical Society for computer upgrades, $1,299 to the Lunenburg Historical Society for glass negative scanner,
Do we also want to include the $33 for the Council on Aging?
and $33 for the Council of Aging fence.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, is there anything else we want to cover on ARPA tonight?
Yeah, the other important thing is that we are sure we spent none of the interest, right? Because
Yeah, we were
Yes,
there's
so
$215,000
So-
of interest.
Let me just say, yeah, I don't know, you may have, but it really doesn't matter, truthfully, as long as we make sure we
Yeah.
do not spend any more
Yes.
than the, whatever it is, 3507.
Okay.
That's not to say we might not have to go back in and make a journal entry in the accounting, but as long as we stay locked on the actual cash you got, we're in good shape.
Yeah, okay.
Really, to answer your question, though, because I went back and looked, the answer is yes.
I
We did
think we did. Yeah.
allocate, thinking that we could, the interest that
Yeah.
we had available, but it's
Because we
not a
haven't spent
concern because
everything.
we haven't
Yeah.
over-allocated, so.
Oh, because I remember
parts.
adding that interest to our balance,
Yeah.
available
Yeah,
balance.
it jumped up from 40,000 to like
Yeah.
300
In the
something.
machinations of us doing the approvals, yes, but in the actual
Oh,
amounts,
I know,
no.
I know. But we're up to $215,000.
Yeah.
That rolls over to the general fund?
Yes.
That's excellent.
So in total, we received for ARPA about 3.5 million. We have 3.285 plus 14, so what's that? 3.2, almost 3.3 million that we have allocated now. So we're still under, so we're not that close to it yet. So we still have the wiggle room to deal with the contingencies and whatever else may arise in December. So, all right.
And I did not use that 250+ thousand in the tax recap that we worked on today.
Okay. Anything else on ARPA?
I just want to thank the Historical Commission and the Boys and Girls Club for getting those requests in.
I do as well, yeah.
Historical Society, thank you.
Yes. You know, I know this money is a drop in the bucket. It's $14,000 out of 3.5 million, but it goes a long way for, you know, the groups and organizations that receive it, so absolutely. All right, anything else that we want to cover on ARPA tonight? All right, hearing none, we can move on. Review and discussion for draft of proposed purchasing credit card policy. We reviewed it and asked questions of Ezekiel 2 weeks ago. Are there any remaining questions or comments on this?
I had one, but let me get to it.
We decided on one card to start, right? Because I know there was discussion, okay.
My only question is, are we assigning this into the Select Board rules and regulations? And if so, what is the number that we're assigning this to?
We are assigning it, we didn't have a number developed yet.
All right, I can pull up and figure that out pretty quick.
We also did circulate at the staff. We got 3 questions about this and the reimbursement policy, all of which were pretty easily answered.
Any other questions or comments, or is it looking good?
I have no comments on it, it's fine with me.
All right. It's fine with me as well. You're pulling up the number and the
Yeah.
policy that this is going to go to?
Yeah, I think this would be considered, let's see.
Probably go under financial, not operational, right?
Yeah, it could go under financial. Yeah, it could go under financial. So I think it would be section 3.11.
Yep. All right, any other discussion, or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to adopt the procurement card policy as section 3.11 to be formatted consistent with the rest of the rules and regulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional
I
discussion?
just want to see where that is, if we have a moment. Where are our things online, our bylaws?
Yeah, Tom, do you want me to hand you mine? Because I already have it pulled up, the rules and regulations.
Article 3.
Yeah, I was saying 3.11. You can just...
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on, discussion on annual climate survey policy. So I know I've had this on the agenda for a while, so it was kicking around in the back of our heads. I said that we would get to it after town meeting, but if we still want another week or two to really think about this, then we can kick it until December, unless people are prepared to start discussing what we want in this. All right.
I'm in favor of December.
Okay. As am I. I have some notes, but I will add to it. All right, same for the next one. Select Board and Town Manager goal setting process. We'll wait until December on that. Discussion and possible action for CCC, Cannabis Control Commission host community agreements. So the Cannabis Control Commission, the CCC, updated their requirements for host agreements pretty recently. And basically, there are new sections that need to be included in them. One that stood out to me when I was comparing them is like a DEI, basically like a DEI and local municipal hiring initiative. That language needs to be included in pretty much all host agreements. So basically what we need to do is we need to rewrite our host agreement with Bliss in the draft format that we have from the CCC. And as of right now, because that they don't have that updated language, they're actually not able to get their renewal. So they received an extension till the end of February. So we have until February to review this and to draft a new one based on the new draft language from the CCC. But that's pretty much the ask here. We just have to go based on the new draft from the CCC so that they can have the updated language in their host agreement and get their renewal through the state.
I thought I had heard that these host agreements have been kind of weakened as well.
Dramatically.
Can you just speak to that?
Sure. So first, we are meeting with their council. I believe Annie set it up for Thursday. In simplest terms, you used to be able to require upfront payments, donations to local charities, and a flat percentage of their gross sales as the equivalent of the community impact fee. This eliminates all kinds of fixed payments and moves to what they call claimed impact fees. So you have to go through a process. Instead of saying, you're going to pay us 3% of the gross because that's the impact on us, you now have to go through a process of generating what are the true impacts upon the community, documenting them, police response time, permitting time, auditing time, and you then send them a bill for those impact fees, and the CCC can actually override us in terms of what we claim. That's sort of the biggest thing. Creating a uniform document. There's a lot of other small things, but the biggest thing is the change in how you calculate the community impact fee.
And can you just draw attention to this DEI language stuff? Because, I mean, everyone has to be...
Section 8, I believe. Hold on one second, let me find it.
Because everyone has to already comply with all the laws. So what's this new, regulation?
That is a question for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I have no idea.
You said Section 8?
Yep.
Which is equitable relief option, page 12?
Page 9. It's on page 9. But like I said, there was something about like municipal hiring, like local opportunities as well. I don't know. When I talked to Annie about this, because she went through...
that we can impose upon the business. It's not a requirement for us to do it. It's a requirement, as I understand it, it's a requirement that we can impose upon the business.
Right, yeah.
We can or must? And I'm sorry. Oh, I see it now. Okay. So it's in the model HCA template.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So...
One thing I did ask is...
As I understand it, you have a single retailer?
Yes.
All right. And then, so what it's suggesting in 8A, if I can just read this.
Yeah,
companies shall, consistent with applicable laws and regulations, make good faith efforts to hire municipal residents for employment, supplier services, and/or vendor services. All right. B, the company shall, consistent with applicable laws and regulations, have goals, programs, and metrics, and make progress towards those goals to hire individual businesses for employment, supplier services, and/or vendor services from areas defined as areas of disproportionate impact by the commission. And then C, the company shall, consistent with applicable laws and regulations, have goals, programs, and metrics, and make progress towards those goals to hire individuals/businesses identifying as people of color, particularly Black, African American, Hispanic, Latinx, and Indigenous people, women, veterans, persons with disabilities, and LGBTQ plus people. I don't agree with including that language in any requirement of ours. And so is this obligated, or is this an option?
So this is what I was going to say. I wanted to get really a review on whether or not that's included, because when Annie and I first had our conversation, it seemed like we did have to follow this template.
I want to refer to it as a template.
Okay.
I will converse with the licensee as to what they're looking for. We will then crunch that in here, and then we can review it with the licensing authority as to what their thoughts are. In any areas of concern, and we've now had one flagged, would be identified. We'd review it with council as to the difference between a binding, you must use this, oh, and here's a template you can use. You know, where are we? And then we can go back to your licensee. We will need to move expeditiously, which is why I've tried to get the lawyer in here this week. But similarly, if there are any other questions about that template, please send them to me now so that I can begin to take them into consideration because time is of some import. My target for getting this done is prior to the 15th of January because they have to have it to the CCC, all their paperwork, by February 28th.
Right.
And I don't want to be crashing up against the deadline.
Yep. I need more time to really read through it. I'm sure everyone else on here does too, so.
And that's why we brought it to you this evening.
Yep.
We wanted to start the conversation sooner rather than later. So I've made a note of the one concern, but if you folks have additional concerns, if I could get them within a week, that would be terrific.
Okay, I think we can do that. All right, any other questions or comments on this tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Debrief the special town meeting. So obviously, I think we're tracking the takeaways from that the board has to do, like the sick leave bank policy and the Brooks House, which is probably going to fall under the wheelhouse of the Municipal Building Design Committee. But is there anything else that we want to discuss or any action items coming out of town meeting? Do you have any, Carter?
Well, I only have a question. If Article 10, or whichever it was, the Brooks House, is to be delegated to the Municipal Building Design Committee, I would just want to know now, because we had planned to kick it to the planning staff starting tomorrow. If the board has a different sense of direction, it would be good to know.
I think either option is fine. My opinion is that the request that came from the APDC it's a technical request. It's not just a policy. It's a lot of it's technical. So the Municipal Building Design Committee, we're up and meeting. We met last week. We're meeting tomorrow. I think that, based on the schedule that we're going under, I do expect that we would have capacity to take this on in about January and get to a result probably by the end of February, March time period. It seems pretty straightforward. I think that we do have, 2 engineers as well as myself on that committee, and so I think that there is a specialty there. And then we also confer with Chris Ruth, and so I think we can do it in collaboration, but it's really up to the majority of the board.
I don't think the planning staff is going to arm wrestle you over it, so, as long as we know the sense of direction of the board, so that, if it's on the staff level, we'll get started. If it's going to be led by the Municipal Building Design Committee, and you'll talk with Chris Ruth, Chris Riley, and others as you think they're needed. Whatever direction the board wishes to go in.
I just wish the board to be apprised regularly on whoever's doing it, on the progress of it, so we know and the public knows where we are. The who does it is immaterial to me.
Yep, all right, I agree with that, I don't have a preference. So should we just say that the Municipal Building Design Committee will take it on and provide regular updates?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to, because it is a task, I think, the updates are going to need to be at least monthly or more. And I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth, I would imagine. So I'm okay bringing that to the Municipal Building Design Committee.
All right, thank you. Anything else we want to discuss coming out of special town meeting?
Wasn't too long.
No, it wasn't. I thought it was great. A lot of robust conversation, it was efficient, perfect town meeting. All right, moving on to minutes, we don't have any. Warrants, we have 2. We have an accounts payable warrant in the amount of $241,981.46. And I believe this is all actually the same warrant, even though it wasn't. Okay. Let me just look at it for a second. It was. Any action items?
Yes. I want to pick up on something that I think I heard from two of my colleagues tonight. I think it's really important that as much information as possible makes it into the Google Drive at the time that the meeting agendas are posted. I recognize that there's going to be delays sometimes in some information. Sometimes things are going to come out on a Monday. But some of these heavy topics, I think it's really important that we have the information going into the weekend for the members to be able to come to these meetings with as much information as possible. And I would much prefer to delay topics another week so that members can come fully informed.
All right. Any committee reports?
Yeah, Budget Task Force met last night. We talked about CPA, Community Preservation Act. We also talked about some efficiencies. One that got a fair amount of discussion was the number of accounts that we have in town and the desire to reduce those and streamline our accounting. And then Carter already mentioned going to try to work with Tony to have a PAC talk of the town coming up. Oh, and school committee meets tomorrow, and stormwater is posted for Thursday.
If I may, what was the discussion around the Community Preservation Act?
How it works, and whether we thought it was something we should look into given the projects that are coming up, and we're going to try to have some people come to the next meeting, December, what is that, 2nd, to talk about it in more detail.
So just to be aware, if the committee didn't already know, that we tried to pass it twice.
No, we didn't know.
Yeah, we tried to pass it twice in the past.
When was the last time, out of curiosity?
Like 2 years ago?
No.
Really, that recently?
No, it wasn't.
It was during the pandemic.
No, it was not during the pandemic. It was, yeah, probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And then before then, so twice, I was on it both times, and so if you want information, I'd be more than happy.
To know what surcharge was proposed
3.
would be good.
Mm-hmm.
3, ooh,
That's
that's the
what
max.
it is.
Right.
You don't have to go up that high.
No, we didn't have to
Yeah.
then either.
Oh, okay.
Tom, I think you're absolutely, we declined to put it on the warrant during the pandemic, but I think
That
we
might be
didn't have
true,
that
yeah.
request.
Townsend just passed it in,
Yeah, I saw their
Number.
yard signs. I knew that they had it, never actually looked at the results. They passed it?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
interesting.
also matters how much it's being funded now. That's the one thing I don't know
Well,
anymore.
yeah.
Because it used to be 100%.
it's nowhere
So,
near that
right,
now.
Right, so now it's like, okay, you just, now it's like a bank savings account. It's like you put it in, you get 10% or something. What used to be, you put it in, you got 100% of matching. So that's why we did it at 3 back then, but it was a different demographic then.
Well, it aligns, I think, nicely with some of the big projects coming up, Marshall Park
Yeah.
municipal building,
It did,
historic
it did then,
buildings,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it just was a different demographic.
Yeah, if you have anything on that.
Yeah, we can talk.
Is there another warrant?
No.
No, it was just one, just wasn't rubber banded.
Town Manager Screening Committee met last night. We reviewed the applications, and we have chosen 6 candidates to interview on December 11th and 12th. And capital planning, I think, meets in the first week in December. I think it's December 2nd is the Monday. Yep.
Economic Development Committee was supposed to meet this Thursday, but then there is no meeting posted, so I'll have to follow up with them. The Master Plan Steering Committee, we attempted to meet last week. We were unable to make a quorum, so we had just an informal session where the consultant from Over Under provided a quick update and reminded everyone that there is a town-wide meeting that is open to the public on December 4th. That's at the library from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Encouraging people to attend that, as well as I think the third survey is available. I think it's on our town website. Is it not on our town website? If not, maybe we should look at that. Yep. It is available on planlunenburg.org. That is, I thought I saw it on our Facebook page, but maybe I'm misremembering and I just shut my computer. But anyway, planlunenburg.org, that survey link is available there if we are encouraging residents to take that. And we still need to reorganize the Master Plan Steering Committee after the former chair stepped down. And we don't currently have members attending from several of the different committees and commissions. So we're working on getting liaisons that are supposed to be sat and appointed to that as well.
Municipal Building Design Committee met last Thursday. We were going over interview questions for our bidder. We have an interview with them scheduled for tomorrow evening, and we're expecting to bring if all goes well, we are expecting to bring them under contract by the end of the month. We have a kickoff meeting scheduled for first Monday in December, and again, the plan is to have them before the Select Board on, I believe it's February the 4th, for the presentation and completion of all deliverables. Also, for the Municipal Building Design Committee, I will be at the school committee meeting next week, not next week, tomorrow as well, and to kind of give an update on the Municipal Building Design Committee. We are looking to meet again potentially next Monday before the kickoff with the designer, just to finalize some space needs information, but more to come on that. And then we had a soft meeting. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, a soft meeting that I had with the chair of the planning board. We had a soft meeting with the developer. That soft meetings are usually when someone's coming in to express ideas and wanting to know kind of community input for any initial concerns. And it was a soft idea to build senior housing and starter homes, so I'm expecting that more information is going to come out of that. Obviously, it's a planning board related issue. It'll probably go that way, but it was really good to see that someone's looking to kind of get a development going in town that would really create starter home opportunities for people as well as senior homes, so that's always a good thing.
Planning Board hasn't met since special town meeting. The Council on Aging met the day of special town meeting. They spent a lot of time discussing their warrant articles that they had, the replacement for the director. Other than that, not too much that really needs to be reported here, though. All right, so upcoming meetings, we'll be meeting on December 3rd and then December 10th. Are there any public comments from the interim town manager?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Any public comments from the public? Ann?
So patient.
I know.
Very impressive, Ann.
Ann Nelson, 435 Townsend Harbor Road. I'm on the board at the Lunenburg Historical Society. I'm the secretary. So I thought I was going to come up and say, hold our request till the end. Surely there'll be $8,000 left over in ARPA funds at the end. So hold on to our request till the end. But instead, I wanted to express my gratitude and thank you so much for approving our request. You have no idea what this means to us. We run on a shoestring budget. We discuss whether we're going to spend $150, and sometimes we decide not to. So it really is important to us. We could not make these purchases and make the improvements that we've already done with the first round of funding that we got. We just would defer those things, and that puts us at risk. So we really do appreciate this money. It makes a big difference to us. I listened to the request from the Boys and Girls Club about a vehicle, and we discussed this one other time, but just amongst a few of us, I'm also on the board at the food pantry. The food pantry also needs a vehicle. We go to the Worcester County Food Bank once a month, and that's always an issue for us. Whose vehicle are we going to use? Who's available? How are we going to accomplish this? If there were an opportunity for us to share a vehicle with the Boys and Girls Club, that would certainly work for us. I have not discussed this with the Boys and Girls Club. I have not discussed this with the full board at the food pantry, but if that makes the purchase of a vehicle any more palatable to you, we need on a regular schedule, once a week, the use of a large vehicle. So we would be more than happy to talk with the Boys and Girls Club about that. And finally, I would like to invite you all to come and visit us at the Historical Society. And we're only open Wednesday morning, so stroll over on a nice day. It's beautiful. We have lots of things there that we can now protect better with an air conditioner in the attic, which gets to 110 degrees in the summertime, and we've got 300-year-old ledgers and books in that attic that should not be subject to that kind of humidity. But come over and visit us and see what we have, and more importantly, become a member. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ann. All right, any other public comment from the public? Check Zoom. Not seeing any. Any public comments from the board?
Just want to wish everyone a very safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Ditto.
Same here. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. It is 9:21 and the select board is adjourned. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you in December.